we flipped a three-sided coin, and Dean, you go up first with your number 10.
Okay. Well, my number 10 was kind of a surprise to me. I like these filmmakers a lot, but sometimes their movies are so kind of low key that they just kind of fly in under the radar a little bit. But this one was so ridiculously emotional, and is anchored by such a fantastic lead performance that I just had to put this at number 10. So my number 10 is from Jean-Pierre and Luc Dardenne. It's called 2 Days, 1 Night. It just got what some people considered a surprise Oscar nomination for Marion Cotillard for Best Actress, but for me, I thought that it was a foregone conclusion that she was going to be nominated. I mean, even with the sort of strange practices of the Oscar committees and so forth, I just felt like there was no way that anybody could ignore the performance of this woman who is so great in it. She plays a worker at a factory that's got to cut corners. The boss has decided that they have to cut the budget, and they can either do one of two things. They can either forego giving everybody a bonus at the end of the year, or they can fire one person. And as we discover in 2 Days, 1 Night, Marion Cotillard is that one person that's on the chopping block, and mainly because she has underperformed at work because of her depression. And the depression is something that kind of, the depression issue actually kind of sneaks up on you in the movie. So at first you think it's just a movie about her having to try and find these people to vote for her, either. So she goes to each one of the people, that she works with, and she says, would you vote for, not firing me and just don't get a bonus this year or whatever. So that's really the sort of the structure of the movie, is her going to each of these individuals, and it gets more and more tense as it goes along, and it's actually kind of a different kind of feeling for a Dardenne movie in that way.
Really?
And it's just a brilliant movie. It just kept me on the edge of my seat all the way through, and that was just something I wasn't expecting from these filmmakers. So and absolutely one of my favorite performances of the year. So that's my number 10.
Oh, may I just want to add something? The trailer is very gripping, and I was going to go see this today and then save Still Alice for next weekend. But I just didn't. Unfortunately, my day got really messed up. But I really wanted to see this today, and the trailer is so emotionally gripping. And I did not know the rationale behind her, why she's on the chopping block, and that even makes me even more interested to see it, because just from the trailer, her performance is just like, you really empathize with her. You can't. I don't care who you are. It just seems like that kind of performance that, wow. That's what we love.
It really is. I mean, obviously a lot of people reacted to it. And she won. Did she win Best Actress at Cannes, or maybe she didn't? I can't even remember now.
This is my other question for you. How does it compare to her performance in The Immigrants? With you and I both are in the minority. We were underwhelmed by that
she's not
film.
the problem with The Immigrant. I mean, she's fine in it. It's just, so is the rest of the cast, really. It's just, kind of like an old. It's kind of a throwback kind of story to something that you might have seen in the 30s or something. Like in 30s cinema or something.
Credit.
So
you're giving it way too much credit.
Yeah, I mean, I love 30s cinema. I don't want to denigrate 30s cinema. It just feels like something I've seen before. So that's, her performance is not the problem in that movie. She's fine in it. So, but in this movie, I think there's more for her to do, I think, than just look, sort of like a waif or whatever. She's alternately, absolutely engaged in the process of doing this, and then also just absolutely exhausted by it, and then energized by it, and so and then just ready to give it all up. So I mean, it's like it really hits a lot of emotional mile points that the Immigrant doesn't do. I don't think.
No, of course not. So I think even though she's an Oscar winner, I think she's a very underrated actress. She is the high point of Public Enemy. I mean, when she's in that movie, she gives that movie a spark that it does not have, and that's really.
Oh my God! Speaking of which, I am so depressed by what's happening to Michael Mann. God.
Yeah.
If you believe what you hear about Black Cat,
I saw
what's happening? He was one of our great filmmakers.
Well,
has he just gone mute? I mean, wow.
And I don't want to take away from your guys' presentations. I do want to see this one. I watched it yesterday. I saw it for free, by the way, so that there is something to be said for that. I had a free ticket, so I used it for Black Cat. But I think the movie from the trailer, I was underwhelmed by the trailer. It just didn't look that interesting.
Yeah, me neither. I was like, what? This seems like
the only thing
the
that
work
matters
of a lesser filmmaker.
It could be interesting given the topic, but it's so underwhelming, and I'm beginning to think that it seems like almost Michael Mann was brought in as an afterthought, because if you watch the movie and the locations and everything, and was this movie made to really, that our country was beside the point that really to make money in Asia, given the locales and everything, and the majority of the cast? I felt like I was watching like a Johnny Toe movie at times, really. But not as good.
Well, okay, then let's turn to another movie from 2014. Jerry, what's your number 10?
Okay, I would like to preface this by saying people will demand after this list that I not be asked to return to the show. My number 10 is a movie. I'm very serious. I have a yellow legal pad here that if it's ever found, I'll be shot. But my number 10 is Blue Ruin.
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh, it's wonderful. And I picked this movie, and we did talk about it. I think we actually talked about it when you saw it, Dean. When I saw it a couple months before you, but of course I forgot to talk about it. This movie I love this movie because it goes with one of my favorite topics in movies, revenge. And it's just
why is that one of your favorite topics, by the way?
Because I think it's probably the most important thing. If you're wrong, I read a book a long time ago by Vicki Hendricks, a crime novel, and it said art was the way that you make the world perfect to fit you.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, I think between the three of us, there's all a level of vengeance that we have within us. I don't think I'm being crazy when I say that. But this guy, he's really, he's this horrible crime has been committed against his family, and he has to, he's living on the beach in this car, and his life is really, he's hit rock bottom, and the person who committed this crime he gets out of prison, and his life, he's like thrusted back into like the great cause of his life, and he has to protect what he has left. It's like The Thinking Man's Taken, but by a billion times better than that. But it's a performance by Malcolm Macon-Blair.
Macon-Blair
is just so revealing and so astounding. I mean, this guy's just got nothing, and he's really just down in the dumps, and then we see him transform, and how the film is resolved will, I think, leave you speechless too. It's quite ending when everything comes to a head. It's just incredible. But this is like
as they do in revenge movies a lot.
A lot, yes. But this filmmaker, has this gentleman made anything else? Jeremy,
I think this is his first. As far as I know, this is his first feature. He's done some shorts. Oh, he did a movie called Murder Party back in 2007. So.
Oh yeah, okay. But I vaguely remember that. It's really well done. I mean, it's a really superb film.
It is. It's really it's an unusual revenge movie in that the motivation for the revenge seems more sadness than it does anger.
Yeah,
like
it is sadness.
It really seems to come from that's what distinguishes it in that sort of mini genre or whatever. Is that feeling, and also the feeling that the filmmaker, who's Jeremy Saulnier or Saulnier.
Saulnier. I'll go with Saulnier, but I'll go with you or
Saulnier. Yeah, we'll go with that. But the film reveals itself quite slowly, and very quiet movie too. Also, a really great little supporting performance in it by God, what's that guy's name? I got to look him up now. But Devin
was in the movie. Eve Plum is in the movie, by the way. Eve Plum, the Brady Bunch.
From the Brady Bunch, right? Exactly. She's probably the biggest name in the movie, but Devin Rattray has been in a lot of things. He was in Nebraska,
but this is I just think what you say, the way it reveals itself, and it is very slow, but it's part of this whole. I mean, there's another movie like this that came out around the same time, Cold in July, which is another wonderful film with Sam Shepard that is like this, and it's also with Mud and with Joe. And so this whole mini genre that's popped up
like a rural.
And the first of these is Winter's Bone, really, with this big fat mafia almost.
Rural vengeance.
Yeah, rural vengeance. I mean, it's a whole.
That should be a movie itself.
Can I just say that rural is the most unfortunate word in the English language. I mean, what an awkward word. Rural.
Yes, it is. Rural. Yeah.
We really need to rethink that. But what was the name of that movie that was based on the DC sniper?
Blue Ruin.
No. It was
Blue Caprice.
Blue Caprice. Yeah.
See, I always get those two confused.
But Blue Caprice. I have not watched Blue Caprice yet. Is it a good movie? Is it a good movie? Does anyone know?
I have no idea.
I haven't watched it yet either, so it's still on my to watch list.
We could do a double feature,
I haven't seen Velvet. I haven't seen Blue Ruin, but I'm looking forward to doing so. Okay, so my number 10 is, I think, a very good movie, but also a very important one. I think that we should be reminded of the sacrifices of our journalists every now and then, and the importance of good journalism and the obstacles in their path to actually expressing good journalism, and that's Kill the Messenger. Which is a story, Jerry talked about it at length a couple of shows ago, the story of Gary Webb, who broke a story about the government's involvement in the cocaine trade and freeing Nicaragua, and his career was systematically dismantled as a result of breaking that story. And what I like the way, I mean, it could have been done in a very flat kind of way, but it has some really inventive stuff in it. Like the ending, and I'm not really giving much away, but the ending, it builds it up to this very victorious moment where he is about to accept a big Journalism of the Year award. And it crescendos into this big, rousing, Rocky-esque kind of thing, and then you are taken back down to the reality of it. And he's in a room full of people that are intensely jealous of him, and they're not respectful of his accomplishments at all. I mean, he made a lot of enemies, mostly out of jealousy, because people were jealous that they didn't get the story that he got.
Right.
But the big revelation is, Jeremy Renner has always been, to me, he's been a fine actor. I mean, he's always been very good. But I think this is the big showcase for him. I really liked him in this role. It kind of fit him like a glove. It challenged him, and I felt like I saw a new side of him in it. Now, this isn't All the President's Men, which is the granddaddy of all kind of journalism movies, I think. But I think it serves as an important reminder that, you know, in this gossip-driven culture, this is what the real thing is right here. I mean,
right.
There's a lot on the line when it's done right, you know.
It's a period piece, is it not? I mean, is it it takes place in the...
It doesn't. It is, but it doesn't feel like
early
one because it's such a recent history.
But my motivation for asking that is that it's not a movie that takes place today. So this kind of journalism is dying. You know,
exactly.
That kind of journalism is dying from probably, I haven't seen the movie yet, but for probably the very same reasons that, nobody wants to be, you know, under the chopping block, you know, anymore.
Well, there's that.
Any reason.
There's budgetary concerns, and then there's also, you know, stuff the intense amount of scrutiny that you come under when you break something like that. I mean, just look at what they did with the Citizen 4 guy.
Edward Snowden.
Yeah, when the paper published all of that material, and it was reminiscent of the Daniel Ellsberg thing from decades ago. It's a very tight wire. You know, it's a dangerous profession.
I think it's a good choice. I mean, both of your choices so far are really good. But I did not put this movie almost made it to the top 10. But what I found fascinating about this movie was here we are almost 20 years later when it comes out, and the journalists and the media people who were involved in his destruction back then felt the need to write more articles, like saying how they were right and he was wrong. And I thought that was very interesting, that you're that insecure that you're worried that this movie is somehow going, you know, I'm not going to say it's what he did was 100% true, but he was willing to go, you know, dig beneath the surface, and and it does relate to a lot of things going on right now as far as race relations are concerned. The story that he broke. It ties in directly with the events of 2014 and going into 2015, as far as I'm concerned. And it's a very important film, and what they did to this guy is just horrible. I mean,
the film also feels like it's a slight bit repressed. I mean, suppressed, I should say. Yeah. It doesn't feel like the film got out there enough to create any kind of buzz around this kind of tale.
Well, it feels like an old school movie in a way because it's a movie. It's a straight drama told straightly without frills. It's very efficient in what it does, and it's like you said, Dean. It's a profession that's dying. I mean, most people don't know what the hell it is anymore to be an investigative journalist. Unless they watch I Love Trouble.
I mean, I would generally be afraid to be an investigative journalist because I'd be afraid that I'd be the next person under investigation. So
it's not unlike Jeremy Renner's character, the Hurt Locker. I mean, it's just a different kind of risk that he lives for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Dean, you're number 9.
Number 9 choice is probably the most, I don't know, I have a lot of unusual movies in my top 10, but this is possibly the most unusual and possibly the least accessible movie for just anyone. But it's made by somebody that I think is one of the great filmmakers working today, even though he doesn't work very often, and that's Jonathan Glazer, and the film is called Under the Skin. Scarlett Johansson had a pretty dang good year this year, and starting off with the spillover from the previous year with Spike Jonze's Her, where she did a voice-only performance that really captured people's imagination, but also in Captain America, The Winter Soldier, and Jon Favreau's Chef, and Luc Besson's Lucy. To me, this was far and away her crowning achievement of the year. She plays it's kind of a throwback, for me the movie is kind of a throwback to Nicholas Roeg's The Man Who Fell to Earth, so I won't say that it's a ridiculously original movie, but in the way that it is filmed, it is ridiculously original and challenging. She plays basically an alien who is down on Earth for unspecified reasons. She seems to just be studying humanity, and specifically men. This alien has landed in the form of Scarlett Johansson, has landed in somewhere in Scotland, and basically the film is her character traveling through Scotland in a van, picking up men and then taking them to their, I don't know, to their doom, to be studied in some way. I don't know. The movie doesn't explain a lot of things, really. And it doesn't really care about explaining anything. What now?
There's food. Her planet's dying, so
it's a food thing. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I mean, I didn't really get all of that, really, but that's okay. I don't care about that.
No, it's not important. It's just, that is actually the rationale, and that was the rationale. I read the booklet so long ago, but that was, you read the book?
Okay, all right.
A long time ago, but they're cow. They're like a bovine creatures, and they come here for food.
Okay, so that makes it even closer to The Man Who Fell to Earth, because they're coming in that film. David Bowie's alien character is coming here to find water to take back to his planet.
Aliens are so good looking, man. Aliens are so hot.
Well, that's because they can take any form that they want, really. But anyway, this film is filmed in such an ridiculously odd way. It has that amazing, eerie score by Michael Levy that really should have been nominated for an Oscar. If this film should have been nominated for one thing, it should have been that. But also very highly unusual special effects and makeup that don't conform to any preconceived idea of what special effects should bring to a story like this. Like, there's this one amazing shot of the forest, and then as you're watching this shot of the forest, it seems to transform into the forest itself seems to transform into a image of Scarlett Johansson just curled up and sleeping, and there's just something like so ridiculously magical about it. It's like, am I actually seeing this? There's lots of moments in it where you just can't believe what you're seeing, and I didn't really get that very much in movies this year, and so I just had to put this in my top 10 because it was just such a unique viewing experience, and I can't put it out of my mind. So my number 9 is Under the Skin.
Nice.
Yeah, very good choice.
Yeah, it's definitely different, and I mean Scarlett Johansson is really good in it, and the movie intrigued me for a great amount of its running time. And like I mentioned, like the last time we discussed it, it does become kind of a silent movie at the end. I mean, there's about 30 minutes of running time where like nobody says a word. Like it really does harken back to watching a silent movie in a way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But the score is extraordinary, and you're just kind of jarred by a lot of the visuals in it, and it is a movie that you have to lose yourself in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to give yourself over to it completely, and
like the best work of Lynch or something.
Yeah.
He made 3 different films. I mean, that's 3 totally different films. I mean, that's an accomplishment right there. I also think the film actually contains one of the most chilling sequences of the year, the scene on the beach. I think the scene on the beach is absolutely harrowing. I mean, just like, oh my God, it's a just horrifying sequence.
Yeah. Well, there's a number of them. I mean, to the point, where I thought that the ending was particularly shocking, but yeah, I mean, there's tons of really jolting moments in it. I love that sequence where she picks up the one guy that's got the radical disfiguration to his face. I guess that was something I would have never expected from even a movie of this caliber.
It was the Elephant Man sequence. I call it the Elephant Man sequence. I mean,
he's obviously suffering from like that same thing that like Rondo Hatton had of like the overgrowth of certain parts of his face.
Right.
It was just. I've learned also that a lot of that stuff that's shot with her going and talking to the various guys in Glasgow and so forth, a lot of that is shot with cameras that are secret, that are and those are real,
that's right.
Those are real guys. So there's also a certain element of improvisation in it that's keeps it quite lively.
Jerry, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is a movie while watching it, I was kind of underwhelmed by, and I can't stop thinking of it, though, since. So, anyone want to take a wild guess what it is, or just say what it is?
No, just say what it is.
Paul Thomas Anderson's Inherent Vice. I can't stop thinking about this movie, and I agree with all the criticisms leveled at it. But here's the thing. It actually does work. For all the tangents that it goes off on, and my God, does it go off on some tangents that you're really not sure where he's going with this, it does, I think, come together off the end. I think there's a lot of people want to compare this film to The Big Lebowski, and it's the one film it shouldn't be compared to.
Absolutely.
Doc Sportello is an absolute overachiever compared to Lebowski. I mean, yes, they both smoke an excessive amount of pot, but this film is the stoner version of Chinatown. He has more in common with Jake and more in common with Philip Marlowe from The Long Goodbye than and let's go even further, Sam Spade.
That's what I would say. It's Sam Spade and specifically the Big Sleep.
With it. The thing is that for a man that smokes this much pot, he's on top of things. Actually,
I mean, occasionally he falters, but he's generally there.
First of all, I think if the film deserves it deserves the adapted screenplay Oscar. And it's not going to win, but it deserves it. If you're going to commit yourself to adapting one of the most incredible novelists of the 20th century, Thomas Pynchon, you deserve a nomination. And to do it, I mean, this is also the easiest book by him to get into, and it's not, by the way, but it is. This is a fascinating movie once it gets going. All the performances are good. I think Joaquin Phoenix is superb. Obviously, Paul Thomas Anderson knows how to get a really great performance out of him. It does, I won't lie to you, it has a lot of the same problems I think The Master has. I think the film has flaws, don't get me wrong, but not enough for me to really take away from the enjoyment of it. But it has a tangents problem. It also has a problem he doesn't know when to end it, I think. There's a point in the movie, and I'm not going to say where I think it should end, but there was a point where I thought that would be a great place to just say cut. That's it. You've got everything you need. But then the way it does end, wow, I'm thinking, this reminds me a lot of the end of The Two Jakes. Wow, this really reminds me a lot of The Two Jakes. And what I learned from this movie, what we've seen, I think, from There Will Be Blood, and that Paul Thomas Anderson, loves Chinatown. Forget everything else. He really loves Chinatown. And he also, Southern California has no better friend than Paul Thomas Anderson. He really knows how to make this place look appealing. And he does that here with the Ellsworth's wonderful cinematography. But besides being a stoner version of Chinatown, it also owes, I think, a lot to the rules of the game. Because and let me explain myself here, because I know my mom looked at me and said, "You are an idiot." But I will explain why. It is about a way of life coming to an end. There's a sense of this doom that haunts the whole movie. We know it's 1970. The summer of love is over. Everything bad that has happened. We're living in the age of Nixon. But then you have Josh Brolin's Bigfoot, this police detective who is like sort of like Kevin Spacey, I guess you could say, in L.A. Confidential, but a hell of a lot meaner and just crazier. Josh Brolin really represents the age of Reagan coming about. It's really like he's this harbinger of doom that he makes these digs at Governor Reagan during the movie PTA. But
he's like a demonic Joe Friday.
He is a demonic. He is, and he's also the scene where the wife picks up the phone. That's the great That's great. I could not stop laughing. I was just like, oh my God, he can text. Oh my God. But I mean, it was just hilarious. But there's that sense, and especially the last scene between him where he's driving off with Shasta. That wow, you don't know what's going to become of these people, but their way of life is really his way of life is really closing. And I think that sense of doom is there. And I think the one thing no one is talking about is Johnny Greenwood's score is incredible. Absolutely phenomenal.
always with, I mean, for the past two movies at least. I mean, Johnny Greenwood has been a major player in the quality of Anderson's movies.
Mm-hmm.
And this is no different. Although, I will say this, that his score, it kind of gets lost, and in a good way, though, with all of the source music, that's
and there's a lot of source music in it, man. There's barely a quiet moment in that movie, and the music is phenomenal. But you're right, since it has to share center stage with all that music, it's not as prominent as it is in The Master, There Will Be Blood.
No, it's not. I mean, there.
And you mentioned Chinatown. I mean, Chinatown is as tightly plotted as you can get, and I think that Inherent Vice is the opposite. I think if Inherent Vice is about anything, it's about those tangents. And I did enjoy it.
Right.
I think I have no problem with movies about kind of aimless people. But as long as I feel like the director isn't aimless in the telling of it. And I just felt Paul Thomas Anderson flailing in it. I didn't think he got it. But it could just be that I don't know what he's trying to get. So
I understand what you're saying, and I understand it. But I think there are recurrent themes here from There Will Be Blood, and to a lesser extent, The Master, and also going even back to Boogie Nights. There is an obsession with land. There is an obsession with land and land deals, and that's why I bring up Chinatown, because with PTA, there's this obsession with land and the things that come from the land, and it's there with the real estate and the development deals and everything going on around him. But there's another thing that really struck me, a scene between Joaquin Phoenix and Martin Donovan. And it's a great scene. I mean, I actually think it's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. And he gets at something that is, you don't really see a lot, but he is talking about the way of inequality. And it's when Martin Donovan turns to him and says, "You people lose respect the moment you have to pay someone for rent." And I thought that's a devastating line, but it's a line that I've heard a lot in my life from very, very well-to-do people. They look down on people who don't own things. And it's a fascinating thing, because I think that's there in the whole movie. Jamie, your criticisms are valid, and trust me, I'm watching this movie, thinking, what the hell is he trying to do here? But thinking about it a couple of days, it's like, wow, it really does come together.
No, it could, I can see Inherent Vice as a movie that I would return to because, P.T. Anderson, if you don't get one of his movies at first, I mean, he's a director that demands that kind of repeated attention.
I need to watch it.
So I can see it being a rich enough experience to go back to and I'll perhaps find new things in it. And I do think there's a lot of good things in it that came to my attention upon first viewing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'll end up appreciating it more in years to come. So my number 9 is a TV movie. Yes, there you go. Olive Kitteridge, which I think is one of the great character studies, much less female character studies of the year, in a year that wasn't that great for actresses on the big screen, by and large. This was quite a showcase in this HBO miniseries. And I love the character because they don't make apologies or concessions for her. She is hard-edged, impossible, and you just got to deal with it. And she plays it so real. She's not winking. She's not judging or making fun of Olive.
And she's not cute or anything.
There's no irony. There's no irony in playing. Yeah, exactly. And and Richard Jenkins is as much of a star of this miniseries as she is. I mean, together they carry this thing, and it's just like I said months ago. It's just the beauty of just seeing two great actors working, doing what they do best, and with total freedom. I mean, HBO in this 4-hour format that they gave this, it was a two-parter, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a 4-parter, but 1 hour apiece.
Yeah, 1 hour apiece. Yeah, I mean, that allows you the opportunity to really absorb that world like you do in a novel. I mean, it's almost an impossibility with a 2-hour film. And these are characters that are endlessly challenging and fascinating and endearing and off-putting by equal measure. So it was an extraordinary experience, and it contains, for my money, the single greatest Bill Murray moment I've ever seen. When he just for a split second begins to break down talking about his dead wife. It's just almost imperceptibly subtle, but it's a beautiful, beautiful human moment from him in that movie. So Olive Kitteridge, my number 9.
Oh, well, that's
and I love that you included this, by the way. I should have included it in my top 10, but I didn't because I just made a separation between TV and movies. But if I were to just erase that, this would easily be in my top 10. Absolutely one of the stunning achievements of the year by Lisa Chodolenko.
That's one of our greatest. Everyone's always talking about this dearth of female directors, and it's not true. We have so many great female directors. It's just that the people aren't talking about them.
That's the problem. There's great female. You're absolutely 100% correct. When a female director comes out with something like Olive Kitteridge, like absolutely the internet did not light up when Olive Kitteridge came out on the HBO. Let's just put it that way. Nobody was talking about it.
By an awesome director, though. High art, Laurel Canyon, The Kids Are All Right. And she's such a powerhouse of a director. And, look, I mentioned online, on Facebook, Catherine Bigelow earlier, but it seems like we can only, when we talk about female directors, we talk about Catherine Bigelow or Myers or the late Nora Ephron. But we never talk about these great indie directors, her, Lynn Shelton, Nicole Hofstetter. We never talk about these great storytellers.
Well, and if you want to see stories and characters like this, you're not going to find it in the multiplex. I mean, you need an HBO because there is no way that even in a 2-hour structure that they would make a movie with Olive Kitteridge in the lead without trying to soften her. I mean, I could see her being a sideline character in an ensemble piece like Shirley MacLaine in Steel Magnolias or something. The horror you can laugh at. but
Mm-hmm.
not center stage like she is here.
And she's such a great actress, though, Frances McDormand. I know everyone says Fargo and everything, but she's always been good.
She's always good.
It's like seems like, and then let me go get on look at my pedestal again and say just like this. We talk about Meryl Streep, and then there's no one else. But we have someone like Frances McDormand who's put in the mileage and everything, and equally great performances. I mean, she's magnificent in this, and it's because she ain't easy to like. I mean, that's the deal. I mean, but she is so in the end, and you do feel that scene at the end in the woods or whatever. Oh my God, that's like an emotional. Oh,
it is.
Yeah, and it's not easy.
By the way,
you know that she and Richard Jenkins, their love is genuine.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't try to claim it as some kind of sham or something. It's not cut and dry like a lot of movies would make it.
It's true. It's true. It's complex. It's complex, and I love that about it too. That you can't really. You know that there's a devotion there, but there's also a certain sense of irritation and everything. But that comes with the territory of being married, and that's the kind of thing that you don't get to see in movies very often, unless it's like ratcheted up to something like Gone Girl or something like that. But also, great ensemble cast. It's not just about McDormand and Jenkins in this. They're fantastic in it, but Peter Milan and especially Zoe Kazan in that first episode. I think she's just magnificent in it, and of course Bill Murray and even Martha Wainwright as the pianist at the.
Oh, that's great. That was a great role.
So tons of little performances in it too that are just as good in their own way, and it's just a great movie and beautifully shot and designed and everything too. Really puts you in that town. It was just magnificent.
So, Dean, what is your number 8?
My number 8. I saw this at the New York Film Festival, and it's by one of our great filmmakers who's been around since the mid-'60s, possibly our greatest documentarian, and that's Frederick Wiseman. The name of the movie is National Gallery, and it basically tells it basically puts you in London's National Gallery for 3 hours. It's a 3-hour movie, and even as a 3-hour movie, it really speeds by, I thought, because it really gives you the sense of every single aspect of running a major museum. I mean, most of Frederick Wiseman's movies usually pick a place to explore and then explore it fully, and this is no different. I mean, we see what goes on in the boardrooms as they're trying to figure out schedules and payrolls and so forth. We see what goes on in the restoration galleries where they're taking the works of masters and cleaning them and so carefully and framing them, and the crafting of the frames and the people recording the audio accompaniment to the tours that are mounted, and then there's the critics that come in and give talks or just walking around talking about each of the paintings, and then of course there's also just people looking at the paintings, which you wouldn't think that would be so interesting, but it is, because it's sort of like the paintings are looking back, so it really gives you a sense of the living history of art, and that's exactly what museums are there to do. It even gets down to, the people cleaning the floors and the doors and the handles on the doors and stuff like that. It's kids coming in to experience the art, and and just every single aspect in 3 hours. It's kind of mind-boggling that this 85-year-old guy, Frederick Wiseman, is still able to be so engaged. I mean, I'm not, I don't want to denigrate, but 85 is pretty old, and it takes a lot of energy to make a film, any film. But he's right there in it, I mean, he's not, he's carrying the camera and stuff. So I mean, and his way of doing things without the necessity of any kind of frills or bells and whistles like a lot of documentaries rely on these days with, talking heads and animation sequences and stuff like that, and even narration and so forth, or placards telling you where you are or who people are, and so all that stuff's wiped away in a Frederick Wiseman movie, and it really is just, you're just there and you are experiencing it. And there's just a liveliness to that, and a sort of an innervated quality to it that I love and really respond to in documentaries. So, and I really wish that more people were trying to emulate this kind of documentary filmmaking, because my problem with a lot of documentaries is that they're too I don't know, they're caffeinated or something. There's like they're just too, they're trying to get you all of the time, and it's just like, look, will you just relax and just concentrate on the subject and everything, and stop trying to get us, and I think Wiseman's movies really do that and prove that. So that's my number 8.
Well, that's a great choice. By the way, you guys so far are picking really awesome films. But I just want to, about Wiseman, though, I found a book a couple months ago in my dad's study about Frederick Wiseman, of all things. And maybe I should send it to you, Dean, because I think you get a kick out of it. I think it goes up to the late 70s, I think. I'm not positive. I'd have to go back and look.
I would love to read that.
Yeah, it's sort of like a film series book, but and you got to forgive me, I don't know who it's what the company is or anything. I know Matthew Waller wants to steal it from me, but I'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. But he, by the way, he adores Frederick Wiseman. I mean, that's right up his alley. But that's a great choice, and I agree with you. He's the only one making films like this at all. I mean, right now.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. If you've never seen a Frederick Wiseman movie, and I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't, because there's a lot. They're hard to find, and I don't know if they're available on Netflix or whatever. But he purposely kept them out of circulation for many years. I mean, I think it's at the point where, I think you can buy them now. But they are pretty expensive. So
why would he keep them out? Why would he have done that?
He originally only he only would give them to allow them to be screened at educational outlets, universities. He would give prints. He would give prints to educational outlets and so forth. But for years they weren't available on DVD. They are now. So, I mean, he's been making movies since Titicut Follies back in the late 60s. So, and he's really come out with a movie every year, pretty much on the average. Last year he came out with At Berkeley, which was 4 hours long. And they're routinely quite long. But occasionally he comes out with something like Boxing Gym that's like 90 minutes long. But and then I guess the previous year too, he came out with a movie called Crazy Horse, which was about a dance outlet or something like that.
Right.
So, anyway, he's just fantastic. So
Dean, so that's your number 8. Jerry, what's your number 8?
Okay. I had spoken about this movie. I think I had spoken about this movie on the show, and I'm going to go on that false recollection, so we won't have to spend that much time on it. But my number 8 is something that this country no longer really does that well anymore, with the exception of John Wick, the action film. And no, John Wick is not my pick. My pick is The Raid 2. It's the best action film of 2014. And I just, we see these movies. After watching Taken 3, I really say we really don't do these well at all anymore. Really, we've dropped the ball on that. But The Raid 2 is one of those sequels where, if it's possible, it's even better than the original. And it is. From the get-go, I think the prison yard fight sequence is right up there with the Old Boy Hammer fight sequence and the bath shower sequence in Eastern Promises. Just out of this world incredible. Just incredibly well choreographed. The movie never lets up after that. It's the same character from the first one. He's going undercover in Jakarta, but instead of the apartment building that you had in the first film, you have the whole country. The whole is at our disposal, and it's just really well paced, and the action is just first rate. It's something that we used to do, and it's something that John Woo and the Hong Kong film directors used to do really well. But this British expat, I guess, living in Indonesia, Gareth Evans, and if I guess your first name is Gareth, you're going to be a great filmmaker, I guess. That's all I can learn from last year. If your first name is Gareth, you've got the world is your oyster. But it's just incredibly well done. It really is one of my favorite films of last year, and it's just so well done. I think anyone looking for a really good, just, action film, looking for something, see if there's something, when you think you can't do something new with that genre, this guy has just proven that you can do something new, and I just really enjoyed it.
I'm really going to have to sit down and watch it.
I mean, I know I've talked about it on the show, so I don't want to spend that much time on it, so we can
okay, so your number 8 is The Raid 2.
Yes.
Is it more effective at killing roaches than the original?
My dad, his mere presence can kill roaches, but no, never mind.
Okay. My number 8 is the one I'm bracing for this because I don't think it'll be anywhere close to a favorite of either of yours. But it's the movie that surprised me most because I expected to either one be completely underwhelmed by it or intensely dislike it, and that is American Sniper. Now, I know the beef against this movie because most of it comes from a liberal audience, and I am a liberal who resent the fact that the movie for them does not pass a judgment on the validity of that war. They
That's
read
my
it
favorite
as
thing
kind
about the movie.
They read it
part of the movie.
They read it as a kind of a rah pro-war movie.
No,
I don't think it's
that.
necessarily pro-war. I think what it is, it's a very effective character study of a guy who was born to do this, and as uncomfortable as that is to say, he was born to kill people.
Yeah,
I
agree, 100%.
But a big part of why I like the movie is because it has all those conflicting things in it. But even saying that, it is not a cut and dry biopic because you do see his flaws, you do see his struggles to engage in the real world between scenes of combat. There's a sensitivity and an empathy that Bradley Cooper creates for that character, and Bradley Cooper is phenomenal in the movie.
Absolutely.
He is.
And just from a technical point of view, I think it's the most vital work that Clint Eastwood has done in years.
Absolutely.
Taken just from the very beginning, you can see the editing rhythms are much different. The way he cuts back and forth, and it just has this crackling quality to it. And I'm like, when was the last time I saw that in Eastwood movie?
Right.
He seemed fully engaged in this story. And I was very impressed by that. I'm normally not impressed by war movies, to be honest with you.
Right.
But this one did get me.
Okay, so this was the movie, because I've been on the edge of my seat since you wrote that on Facebook. I nearly got in a car accident thinking about it the other day, but that's beside the point. I agree with everything you said. I don't think this is a pro-war movie by any stretch of the imagination. I also don't think it's a recruitment movie either, as Aaron said. I don't see recruit. There's nothing in this movie that says, "Oh, I can't wait to go and fight."
Yeah.
I think I was talking to someone about it yesterday. It's a great movie, one of the best movies I've seen. A realistic post-traumatic stress syndrome.
You know what? I want to say this too because I actually have this in my mind. I'm talking about Eastwood, and I want to tell you guys before I lose it. Now, for a long time, Steven Spielberg was going to direct this movie, and then he backed out, and they brought in Clint Eastwood at the last minute. You know what? This feels like Clint Eastwood directing a Steven Spielberg movie. Is what it kind of feels like to me.
Can I ask a question? Because I did want to talk about this, and because I wanted to talk about this movie, because troubling, not in a bad way, just troubling because you have those conflicted emotions. I think one of the reasons Spielberg may not have backed out of it is because the backstory of this guy. Chris Kyle's really turned out to be an unreliable narrator in a lot of ways. There's a lot of people are questioning the book, not of his actions overseas, but of the stories he tells about back home. And
that's another thing that's enough to conflict somebody about it. But just the fact that it isn't true to every fact doesn't mean the movie isn't true. The movie and what it shows feels emotionally true. And that's the important thing, I think.
That is, I agree.
I mean, if I had one thing to say about the film, I wish that I do wish that the movie had gone into some darker places, particularly when it comes home. I think that it could have benefited from some of that. But I mean, and particularly the very ending, which I feel is a little bit of a dropped ball, a little bit, but because the movie just sort of ends. And like not satisfyingly, like not in a satisfying way. It's like, oh wow, they decided.
You think it's a cop out not to show that?
A little bit.
You do? Okay, I felt that way too. But not enough to say it's not. I do agree with Jamie. It's his best work in a long time.
It absolutely is, and it's also you feel like. I mean, you can't say it any better than it feels like he's engaged a lot more. Like sometimes when you're watching Clint Eastwood movies, he's famous for doing, only one take and so forth. And sometimes you're watching his movies and you say, you know what, he could have used another take. He could have taken some time to use another take because the acting wasn't so great in that scene or whatever. And some of his movies over the past 10 years have suffered from that a little bit. But this felt like a kind of a throwback to an earlier Clint Eastwood, like where there was just a level of commitment to all of the performances, particularly on the craft level. Particularly the editing that really crackled and really felt more alive than a lot of his other films. And I completely agree, by the way, that it's not a movie that is. It's not. Anybody who's criticizing the movie on any political levels, you're just missing the movie. You're missing it.
But I don't see how you could. I think actually Clint is being somewhat ambiguous here, whether he knows it or not. I really do think, because there's no way you can go into this. And I don't mean any disrespect to Kyle or his family. I think the guy does him a favor at the end who does that to him. I think you see it the second half of the movie. I was reminded of The Hurt Locker because I think Kyle only felt alive over there doing the job that he is good at. And the other thing I was reminded of watching the movie was that great monologue Kurtz gives in Apocalypse Now. If I had 100 men like that, all our problems would be solved over here. He's talking about someone like Chris Kyle. He's talking.
But the movie's version of Chris Kyle, the movie's version of him shows that he's just getting to the point where he is adjusting, where he's found his calling at home to help to help people, to save comrades that are here at home. So, I mean, that plays up the tragic element. I do agree that maybe I wish they would have shown some kind of dramatization of how his life actually did come to an end. I think they didn't because they wanted it to be about his life and not his death, and there was a respectful kind of thing for his family. But that being said, I do like the very last shot where you see the stars on the coffin, and that echoes an earlier scene. Yeah. I thought that was a great gut punch of a very last shot.
Right, there was.
Eastwood is a middle-of-the-road director. Eastwood appeals to both sides of the aisle. I mean, the only outwardly politically divisive movie he's really made are the Dirty Harry series, and those are like powder kegs politically.
Although I do think that in the blogosphere or whatever of movie love or whatever, I do feel like, you know, there's too much of this sort of like kind of blanket kind of dismissal of Clint Eastwood based on his age, frankly. Yeah. I feel like people are like, oh, it's another Clint Eastwood movie. Oh, that old guy, he needs to go away or whatever. I really get tired of.
I see that too.
I get tired of that.
Well, Bradley Cooper said something beautiful. Bradley Cooper was interviewed on Howard Stern. He said, look, people have said that to me too about Eastwood's age. And he said the reason why this movie is so good is because Eastwood is in his 80s.
Yeah. I mean, why can't we accept the fact that, you know, you see it with Scorsese, you see it with a lot. This age only improves a film's We need more. You know, this is the problem. This is what ironically Hollywood does not get. The ageism thing. We need more older people in the movies. We need that perspective. We need that range because, I'm sorry, you know, a 25-year-old director making a movie about it, like, you know, someone in the 60s or 70s, no one's going to buy it. We need someone like an Eastwood because he has the mileage. I mean, he knows. He's been there. He's done it. And that perspective is very important. So, you know, when people say that, oh, he's too old, or, you know, people said the same thing about Polanski or the Rolling Stones for that matter. You know, they always say that they're so old. No, we got to get over that.
I'm just tired of this whole they're old and just you know, write them off. I mean,
I hate that. I agree 100% with you.
It's ridiculous. It's got to end.